You know, in today's world, technology is everything. It's what sets the course for your entire business. So ask yourself, is your tech holding you back, kind of like a roadblock? Or is it a full-on growth engine, blasting you past the competition? It's a huge question, and one you've got to answer. Well, that's exactly where we come in. Here at Strategy Consult, we help turn your tech from just another tool into your #1 advantage. We make sure everything lines up perfectly with your biggest goals, so you can grow smarter, not just work harder. So how do we make it happen? We have this complete start-to-finish approach. First up, strategy and advisory. We map out your best path forward. Then we get to work with development and implementation, building you some seriously solid systems. And finally, we wrap it all up with top-notch governance and risk management to make sure everything is secure, compliant, and built to last. So let's build your future together. Why not check us out at strategyconsult.net or just drop us a line at hello@strategyconsult.net. Let's talk about how we can turn those tech challenges into your biggest wins.
Hello and welcome. In this session, we're going to break down the world of business analysis, a discipline that is absolutely critical to the success of any project. Whether you're brand new to this or you've been doing this kind of work for a while without the official title, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to build a really strong, practical foundation for you.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the basics, the what and why of business analysis. Then we'll dive into the nitty-gritty, learning the language of requirements, figuring out who our stakeholders are, and taking a peek inside the BA's toolkit. And to wrap it all up, we'll connect all those dots back to the main goal, turning a simple business need into real, measurable value.
All right, let's jump right in. Section 1. What exactly is business analysis? You know, before we can unlock a project's full potential, we have to get a crystal clear picture of this role and what it's all about. So let's define it. So, at its very heart, business analysis is all about enabling change. A business analyst, or BA, is like a bridge. They stand between a business problem on one side and the solution on the other. Think of them as part detective, part translator, and part strategist. They don't just write down what people ask for. They dig deep to uncover the real need and then recommend a solution that's actually going to deliver value.
Now, this is a really important point I want you to remember. Business analysis is a set of activities, a role you play, not just a job title on a business card. You could be a project manager, a developer, heck, even a marketing specialist. But if you're out there identifying needs, defining requirements, and talking to stakeholders, guess what? You're wearing the business analyst hat. It's all about the function you're serving. So a question I get all the time is, where does the BA's job end and the project manager's job begin? This slide lays it out perfectly. The BA is focused on the product. They're asking, are we building the right thing? They're all about the what and the why. The project manager, on the other hand, is focused on the project. They're asking, are we building the thing right? They handle the how and the when, the budget, the timeline, the resources. They're two sides of the same coin, and you absolutely need both for a project to succeed. Okay, so now that we've got a handle on the role, let's talk about a BA's most powerful tool, language. Specifically, the language of requirements. The ability to break down a big, messy business need into clear, precise requirements, well, that's the absolute core skill of any great business analyst.
Everything starts at the 30,000-foot view with the business requirement. This is the big why. It's not about what button to click. It's about the strategic goal. If we're building a house, the business requirement isn't build a house. It's something bigger, like we need a safe, comfortable place to raise our family. It's the top-level objective that gives everything else meaning.
And here's a perfect example from our tickets case study. The real business requirement here isn't add two-factor authentication. That's the solution. The actual business need is to meet GDPR compliance. See the difference? The two-factor authentication is just how we're going to meet that need. This keeps the whole team focused on the goal, not just on building a feature for its own sake.
Okay, so from that high-level business requirement, we start to drill down. The next level is stakeholder requirements. This is where we translate that big strategic goal into what specific people or groups actually need. So back to our house. The business need is a safe, comfortable home. The stakeholder requirement from the parents might be, we need 4 bedrooms and a big fenced-in backyard for the kids to play in.
And in our tickets example, a stakeholder requirement sounds like this. It focuses on what the user, the stakeholder, needs to be able to do. Notice it says, customers can view available seats. It describes the what. It does not say how. It doesn't say, show a pop-up window with a clickable seat map. We'll get to that detail later.
A good stakeholder requirement is all about the need, not the technology. And now we get down to the blueprints. This is where we define the solution. There are two flavors here. Functional requirements are what the system does. In our house, that's the front door has a lock, or the oven can bake a pizza. Non-functional requirements describe how well the system does its job. That would be things like the house must be able to withstand 100-mile-per-hour winds.
This slide shows them side by side perfectly. The functional requirement is a specific action. Calculate the total ticket cost. It either does it or it doesn't. Simple. But the non-functional one is a quality check. Support 10,000 concurrent connections. This is so important. I mean, who cares if the system can calculate the cost if it crashes the second a popular concert goes on sale? This defines how well the solution has to perform.
And last but not least, we have transition requirements. These are so often forgotten, but they are absolutely essential. They cover all the temporary things we need to do to get from the old way to the new way. For our house, this is everything involved in moving day. Hiring the movers, setting up the internet, forwarding your mail. You only do it once, but if you don't plan for it, it's going to be chaos. And this example nails it. We need trained support staff, but only for the first month. After that initial period, this requirement disappears. But during that critical launch window, it ensures that our users feel supported and that the whole project is seen as a success right from the get-go.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time on the what, the requirements. Now it's time to shift gears and focus on the who. Because projects don't happen in a vacuum, right? They're all about people. And that brings us to the crucial topic of stakeholder analysis.
Stakeholder analysis is simply the process of figuring out everyone, and I mean everyone, who has a stake in your project. It's a much wider net than most people think. It's not just your primary users. It's your managers, the development team, the legal department, maybe even government regulators. I can tell you from experience, skipping this step is one of the single biggest risks a project can face. It's how you get completely blindsided by a major issue late in the game.
So, one of the best tools for managing all these people is the RACI model. It's a simple grid that clarifies who does what. R stands for responsible. That's the person or people actually doing the hands-on work. A is for accountable. This is the one person whose neck is on the line, who owns the final outcome. C is for consulted. These are your subject matter experts, the people you need to get input from. And I is for informed. These are the folks who just need to be kept in the loop on progress. It's a lifesaver for avoiding confusion. Let's look at this chart. Check out that second row, Create Style Guide. The designer is the R. They are responsible for creating it, but look who's the A, the project manager. They are accountable for making sure it gets done right and on time. Now, here's the golden rule of RACI. For any given task, there can only be one A, just one. This creates that single point of ownership and eliminates any, I thought you were handling that confusion down the line.
So we know who our stakeholders are. But how do we get all that crucial information out of their heads and onto paper in a structured way? Well, this is where we open up the Business Analyst's Toolkit and look at some of the essential techniques they use every day.
Elicitation, it's just a fancy word for gathering requirements. And a good BA knows there's no one-size-fits-all method. As you can see here, they all have their pros and cons. One-on-one interviews are great for digging deep, but you might only get one person's opinion. Workshops are amazing for building consensus, but good luck getting everyone in the same room. The trick is to know which tool to pull out of the toolkit for which situation.
Now, gathering requirements is only half the battle. You also have to organize and communicate them clearly. A spreadsheet with 200 lines of text is just overwhelming. That's why BAs use visual models, like this feature model here. All it does is show the solution's features in a simple hierarchy. At the top, you have a big feature like Browse Tours, and it gets broken down into smaller pieces. This makes the project's scope super easy for everyone to understand at a glance.
Okay, this is a big one. This distinction trips up a lot of people, so let's make it really simple. Validation asks, are we building the right product? Does this thing we're making actually solve the original business problem? Verification asks, are we building the product right? Does the finished product match the blueprints we created? You can have a perfectly verified product that utterly fails validation because you built the wrong thing in the first place. A BA has to keep an eye on both.
And that brings us to our final and, I think, most important section. We've talked about the what, the who, and the how, but now let's talk about the ultimate why. Because at the end of the day, business analysis isn't about writing perfect documents or drawing pretty diagrams.
It's about that journey from a raw need to creating real, tangible value.
So this is the question that should be running through a BA's mind on any project. How do I take all these conversations, these diagrams, these requirements, and make sure they add up to something that provides measurable value? The real win isn't a signed-off document. It's a solution that solves the right problem and makes a real difference. So as you move forward, just keep asking yourself that question. Is what I'm doing right now getting us closer to delivering value? If the answer is yes, you're doing great business analysis.